Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be teaching you a tutorial about how to breed. First thing you need to know is there's multiple steps in breeding. First step is to understand that you need to get egg moves if needed. Second, identify your nature that you want. Third step, identify the IVs that you want. And the final step, which is go end up to the breeding method. Now, there's multiple breeding methods, but before we reach actually how to breed, we need to decide on what we need to do to prepare before breeding. For this tutorial, I'm going to be using Garchomp and Electivire mostly because of their variety in egg moves and how complicated some can be. What I use for egg moves is Cerebi. I go all the way down and read the egg moves, which is right here. First, you want to identify that this is a Garchomp. I want to give him, for example, Iron Head or Iron Tail because he wants to kill fairies. I don't want to get KO'd by a fairy. At the same time, I know I have the damage and the speed to outspeed and kill most of the fairies. So let's say I want to get Iron Head. On Cerebi, you'd go to click this detail button right here. And this would be very useful for you to understand how to get the egg move you wanted. As you can see here, Iron Head, it's move learned by Bastiodon and Aggron, and they are learned by leveling up. So if you want to get it directly, you need one of these two Pokemon in order to get it. Other options you have is using transfer moves from your black and white games. For example, Dragonite could know Iron Head, but he can only learn as a transfer move. So you have to have a Dragonite from black and white, or if you still have black and white, you can give a Dragonite, if you have one there, Iron Head, then transfer it via Pokebank, and then take it into Pokemon X, and then use it for breeding. All these Pokemon here, you see, are Pokemon who learn Iron Head in the same egg group. Now, in the bottom here is the group of Pokemon that learned this egg move by breeding it as an egg move on it. For example, Tyranitar cannot learn it except by breeding it or by a transfer move. Aggron can learn it by transfer move, by breeding it, and by leveling up. Sometimes things could get complicated, like for example, Caesar, if you want to get Defog on him, it's only available via a transfer move. So it's an egg move taught, but it can only be taught to a Caesar if you have black and white. For example, Electivire is another nice Pokemon because the way you want to IV train, egg move train him. One of the most important moves you want to get on him is Ice Punch, just because of the fact that he's weak against ground, Ice Punch covers ground. A lot of people play with dragons. It's a good coverage in general. But the issue with him is he only gets it from Medicham or Hitmonchan. But what if I want to give him a second egg move? Another common egg move is a Cross Chomp. Some may consider it as a bad move, some may consider it as a good move. But Cross Chomp can only be learned by, what's his face? Machamp. But if we go back down to the Ice Punch, we see that Machamp in the same egg group can learn it via breeding. So you want to give, first initially, get a Medicham, get him to learn Ice Punch, breed him with a Machop or any of the Evo lines, get him to level up and learn the Cross Chop while still holding on the egg move Ice Punch, then you breed him on with Electivire, and then you get an Electivire with Ice Punch and Cross Chomp. Unlike here, when we're looking at Garchomp, when we're looking at Iron Head or Iron Tail, we would easily get it via just direct leveling up, because that's the only kind of decent move that you want. Because if you look back on all the egg moves, you don't technically want to make a special sweeper Garchomp, so that takes out Twister, Mudshot, Dragon Breath. Double Edge and Body Slam are not too WoW, I mean, you could run Body Slam, especially with its double damage against Minimize. So if you get the Minimize Chansey with Eviolite, you can just go run with a Body Slam and you'll wreck their day. Double Edge isn't a WoW in general. Dragon Breath is a no. I prefer Iron Head over Iron Tail just because of the accuracy. Metal Claw, same thing, low damage, and Iron Head's a guaranteed a hit, while Metal Claw's a 95% chance hit, and I prefer the flinch over the attack damage. You don't want Mudshot. You could go for an Outrage. Rock Climb and Sand Tomb are just like, why? Scary Face, you're frail. Why you want to do that? Thrash is possible, but if you have Outrage, why not take the Outrage over Thrash? Yeah, Thrash. Because Thrash has Stab because it's the same type, while Thrash doesn't. So Outrage would do more damage, technically. But if we want to, let's say, for example, Outrage and Iron Head, let's see who falls in the same group. We have Bastiodon. He can learn as a transfer move along with Aggron. That's one way of doing it. Or you can breed a female Garchomp if you want to get Outrage, and then get a male Aggron with Iron Head, and then breed them together, and then you'll get Outrage and Iron Head at the same time. Now that you identified what egg moves you want, and you know the concept of getting the egg moves, which is getting the female Pokemon, which you want to transfer the egg move to, and then get a male Pokemon who has the egg move and breed it with it. Second step would be get the nature. This is the most easiest part. Just get a Ditto or any Pokemon in the same egg group with the nature. Let's say we're going back to Garchomp. Usually people want to run either an Adamant Garchomp or a Jolly Garchomp. So let's say we're going to do a Jolly. Get a Jolly Ditto or a Jolly Garchomp or anyone from his egg family group. And if you don't know anyone in this family group, they're right here. Egg groups, as you can see. Then you click on either Monster or Dragon. That's his two egg groups. And you'll get a list of all the Pokemon who are in that list. That's for Dragon. And this is for Monster. Any of these would work as long as they carry the egg move that you want. Then the nature that you want. Once you have that, since the female you got already has both egg moves, she would transfer the egg move, while the male give it the item Everstone, and it will lock down that your next egg would guarantee 100% have the nature you want. If you don't know the nature, you can easily Google Pokemon natures, and you'll get a Bulbapedia page, and that would give you like what nature boosts what nature decreases which stat. For example, Jolly decreases special attack, which is something we don't use on Garchomp, and it raises the speed, which is something very essential, because the faster you are, the more chance you're gonna hit first. And with his high attack damage, he's gonna most likely get a fast KOs, and that's what you want. Now, you have your egg moves, you have your nature, you want to think about your IVs. Like we said, this Garchomp, we want to give him a Jolly. So let's go to Showdown, Team Builder, New Team. Nope, not this. Add Pokemon. We're looking at Garchomp. So we want essentially to have max health, which is 31 IVs in health. Why? You don't want a random person to come and say, I'm going to use Fake Out, Quick Attack, or whatever to kill him. You want him at least to be able to survive these weak Pokemon or the tanks who have low damage. You want him to survive getting those hits. So guaranteed on any Pokemon, take it as a general rule, you want to have on him full max IVs on health, full max IVs on defense and full max IVs in special defense. Now, second thing you want to identify, do you want him to be a sweeper or not? If, like we said before, a sweeper can be a physical or a special. If you want to make him physical, you want to boost his attack. If you want to make him special, you boost his special attack. Most of the time, you'll be going like physical, increase attack, and lower his special attack, which will result in an adamant nature. The other way around, if you want to go for a special attacker, you'd get a modest. Now, I run Jolly on Garchomp just because it increases his speed, which I find more important on him. But this is for you to decide what kind you want to play him as. For example, on my Slowbro, I run him relaxed nature. I care about his tankiness, but I don't care about his speed, but I care about his damage because I don't know what I'm going to be doing. Maybe a Z Headbutt, or maybe a Psychic, maybe a Skull. He is slow. He's not going to outspeed a lot of Pokemon, so I don't need that speed. That is the stat that I don't care about. So that's my stat that I want to get it, that I want to decrease. While in Garchomp, usually you don't care about the special attack, but you care more about the speed or his physical attack. That's why you choose between Adamant and Jolly. Now we're going to go to the other IVs. Now that we identified that the stat we don't want, it was special attack, you don't care what this stat right here is going to be. 31, 30, 10, 0. You don't care. So now we want to go to the big part, which is IV breeding, which is what most people, and I think Chris and Taylor, they were the most two who were telling me about how to IV breed. How do I get my 5 IV Pokemon so fast and easily? This is what I do. There's method 1. Let me open Notepad. Alright, method 1. This is the simple method. It is take a 6 IV Ditto and breed it. Give it the item Destiny Knot. I can't English today. Whatever. Okay. Now you have a 6 IV Ditto with Destiny Knot. Destiny Knot essentially locks down 5 random, understand that it's random, stats. So we're going to call these stats, since it's a 6 IV, all of them will be looking like this. 31s. You know you're going to transfer 5. So the one that's not going to transfer is a wild card. We're going to call it WC, and we're going to denote it by X. But you have 2 Pokemon, which is your female or your second Pokemon, whatever you bred, that has the nature already and the egg moves you want. Let's say right now, for example, we have the Gibble that we wanted. We have a male Gibble, egg move, Outrage, and Iron Head with nature Jolly. And you want to give this guy Everstone. So you want to lock down his nature. So he won't change Jolly no matter what Ditto you're going to be using. And since he already has the egg moves, he's guaranteed to transfer the egg moves along. But his stats, let's say, are XX, all X's. We have no IVs on him. Not even one has been maxed. What do? First egg. Just take one egg. Don't go into the daycare and just put the random Pokemon in and just, I can't get a 6 IV. You're not going to get that. That's not going to get you anywhere. Just put these 2 Pokemon in and breed them. First egg you get is going to have 5 IVs transferred, either the X's or from the Ditto's 31 IVs. And you're going to get a 1 wild card. So just for the sake of example, just to make things easier, I'm going to give this Gibble a 20, 10, 0, or 9, since my keyboard wants 9, 0, 5, and 12. So you bred. You could get potentially 31, 10, 9, 31, 31, and 0. As you can see, these 5 were transferred, but this one was not transferred because it was the wild card, which is our X, meaning the first 5 IVs were transferred, and as you can see, let's call D for Ditto. This came from the Ditto, this came from the Gibble, this came from the Gibble, then we got 2 coming from the Ditto, and then we have a wild card. That was your distribution. You take this Pokemon, since now you have a more perfect IVs, and you breed it. Technically, I go for, when I want to do this method, I go for getting a 4 IV. Because after I get 3, now I'll be breeding my 6 IV with the same Gibble, but now 31, 20, 9, 0, 31, sorry. 31, and then 0. Now, in case you don't know what your IVs are, the most important thing you need to know is when you go to Kilode City, in the Pokemon Center, to the left, there's a guy. He looks like an ace trainer. Talk to him. He'll say he will judge your Pokemon. Show him your Pokemon. If he says you are given X stat and it cannot be beat, that means you have a perfect IV in that stat, which means 31. If he says this stat is dismal, or this stat won't get you anywhere, or you're not even going to leave a dent or a scratch, that only means that the stat you're using is a 0. Those are the 2 most essential, the 31 and the 0. Anything else, if he doesn't mention it or anything, it's a random number between 1 and 30. The only time you care about that number is when you're hidden power breeding, but I'll leave that for a different episode because that is hard. There's no easy way to do it. So now that you have this new Gibble here with egg moves, since he got the egg moves from the initial parent, which was here, you take the Everstone off and give it to this guy. And then you breed again. Hopefully, within 2 or 3 eggs max, you'll get a 4 IV at this point. Let's just say this is the new distribution. You have health, you have attack. Your wild card now was, let's say, for example, defense. And then you got the special attack, you got the special defense, and your speed was transferred from the Gibble and was still a 0. Now this, you can just put it in the daycare with the Ditto and then just breed until you get your 5 IV that you want. In our case, we're looking for this distribution. You don't care about the special defense, that's why it's an X. You care about his physical attack, that's why it must be a 31. You always care about his health, his defense, and his special defense. And since we're building him to be speedy, you obviously care about his speed. Hence why we went with the Jolly Nature. Because we're trying to boost his speed. You definitely want the speed that you're boosting with the Nature to be max IV, because that would actually give you a more of a boost, because it's a percentage. The higher the percentage, the more you're getting benefit out of it. So that's method number 1. It's not too complicated, but it requires you to have a 6 IV Ditto. Some of you may say, I don't have a 6 IV Ditto. What am I going to do? In this case, you use method number 2. This is called the time machine method. This is the method that I personally used before I got 2 of my main 6IV Dittos. Then I got 4 other ones that are special, that have 0 speed on them because, like I said, for example, my Slowbro, I don't care about his speed, and I run him as Trick Room. So Trick Room means the slower I am, the faster I'll be. So I want to get that 0 just because I'll guarantee he will be faster under Trick Room. So going back to the time machine method. Time machine method essentially is you go to the daycare, you put 2 proxy Pokemon. Now, understand what is a proxy. Proxies don't work for anything. Proxies are just like 2 test Pokemon, but they are specific to what you're breeding. So for example, Magikarp. Magikarp is a awesome proxy Pokemon for Pokemon with gender ratio 50-50, or if you want to call it 1-1, whatever you want. 50% chance to be a male, 50% chance to be a female, 1-1 ratio. For every 1 male, there's a chance to get 1 female. What you do is you don't care about their IVs. You mostly care that they're not the same IVs just for making it more distinctive, but you technically don't want them to be similar. So just in case, you'll understand later. I'll elaborate on that point later. So you take these 2 Magikarps and you go to the Battle Institute in Limoise City. This is you're only going to do it once, just initially to identify your proxy Pokemon, what they are, or your test Pokemon. Now, save the game before you enter the Battle Institute. Go inside, talk to the person, take 1 Magikarp, and take it inside. Make sure it has no EVs. It has freshly caught, newly caught, nothing. I don't care what level it is, just newly caught, hasn't seen a battle, hasn't eaten any type of berry, nothing. Just freshly caught in the wild. That way there's no stats or things that influenced it. It would be better if they're the same nature, the 2 Magikarps, but we can go around this. So you take the first Magikarp, you go in the Battle Institute, it'll automatically boost it to level 50, and you'll get a reading. Now, if I can find my list of readings that I got, it's in my DS pack. For example, on my Magikarps, and you want to do like what I did, I put them on a paper. Okay, and there we go. This is what I did. I made a table. I called it 1-1 ratio Pokemon. My male, this is essential that you write it like this. My male had these stats. With the nature lax. My female, after I'm done with the male and read all these stats at level 50, these are level 50 because Battle Institute pushes you to level 50. My female, on the other hand, had 83, 22, 66, 24, 34, and 89, but was a modest nature at level 50. So what I did is I reverted them female back to neutral nature, and then from neutral nature made it a lax nature. Because when I'm doing my test, I'm going to be giving my male the Everstone always. So I'm always going to have my new Magikarp bred. It's going to be a lax natured. And after doing some math, and always when you're doing the math, you round down, not up. So for example, if you were at 66 and you now got a boost of 10% to your defense, so you'll be technically 72.6. That in Pokemon is 72, not 73. It's 72. It's rounded down. So the stats were I believe 72, 22, 30, and 89. These are my stats for lax at level 50. So these are what I care about right now. I saved these stats. This one, you want to keep it, but leave it for later. You care about these two. Next, you restart your game again. You go to the daycare. Take the male Magikarp. Give it Everstone. Because like I'm doing in the tutorial, I'm going to conserve the male's nature. Female, give it Destiny Knot. And if you want to do what I did, I nicknamed them test male, test female, 1-to-1 ratio, or whatever. Test 1-to-1 and female test 1-to-1. That way you can identify them. Oh, these are my test breeding Pokemon, so I don't lose them when I'm looking in my Pokemon box and I'll be like, hey, what am I doing with these two Magikarps? Let me just release them. No, you want to know these are your tests because you're going to use them a lot. So for any 50-50 Pokemon you're going to be breeding, or a 1-to-1 ratio Pokemon you're going to be breeding, you're going to be using these two Pokemon. I'll give you the information for other gender ratios, but for now we're doing the card shop, which is a 1-to-1. So you give these two Pokemon, you walk outside of the daycare, you save. You saved your game outside of the daycare. Why? Because this is called the time machine method. We're going to go back to this time. You keep walking till you get one egg. You take this egg, go wherever you want and hatch it. Then after you hatched it, go to the Battle Institute again. And take this newly hatched level 1 Magikarp that has the Nature Lax. And you go inside. Do I have some random notes? Nope, I don't. Don't have my random note box. I used to save all my data. Okay, let's say you got a female. These are all important information. You type female, lax nature. If one of them had a hidden ability, like one of the Magikarp was a hidden ability Magikarp and one wasn't a hidden ability Magikarp, also take note of that. But if you're catching them from the wild, most likely, because Magikarp has one ability, you're only going to get that one ability. So you're going to write, my egg hatched, female, lax nature, and you go into the Battle Institute, you take the Pokemon, now it's level 50, and you look at its stats. You would be surprised, you'll get something like this. Now, under this, let me put on new lines just to make it easier. You just let your DS rest on the desk, and then you look. 83 came from who? Female. 22. Oh, this was supposed to be 25, sorry. 25 came from who? The female. 72 came from who? Female. 24 came from who? The male. 31 came from who? Nobody. Wild card. X. There's your wild card that you're not going to transfer. The IV you're not going to transfer. And you have a 97 speed. Who is that? The male. So, restart your game, take out those two Magikarps from the daycare. And with this new line, you just essentially figured out that your next egg, the egg that is going to be hatched Once you put 2 new Pokemon in the daycare and you get a message saying, oh, I don't know how this happened, but we found a Poke Egg. It's going to have these stats transferred like the following. Health, attack, defense are going to be coming from the female. Special attack and speed are going to come from the male. And your wild card is special defense. If you're at low IVs, like your initial start was no IVs, you technically want to look for 2 Pokemon you have that are in the egg group where the female is the Pokemon you want to breed. Or if you're doing it with a Ditto, the male has special attack and speed, or the Ditto has health, attack, and defense. Because you're guaranteed that the next egg is going to have this distribution. If you had, let's say, a Ditto with 3 IVs that you caught from a friend safari, 31, 20, 23, 4, 2, and 12. While you had a Gibble who you already trained, got his egg move into nature, and then you take it in, and you got these IVs, let's say for example, 2, 3, 30, 22, 11, and 12. No, let's say 17. Okay? So your next Gibble bred between these two, let's say this was a male. Okay? If Gibble was a male, this would be your distribution of your IVs. If your Gibble was female, this would be your distribution for IVs. With the same Ditto we're using here. As you can see, from this one, the first one, we got 1 IV. Now, essentially if you get 1 IV, you don't want it, so you tell the daycare man, you don't want this egg, tell him, discard it, put back your Magikarps in, and like if after you're doing your math in your head, that before you take out the Magikarps from the daycare, after you had this initial data right here, this data, after you knew your distribution, what it is, and you went through all your Pokemon and found out there is no decent way to get an optimal solution with the combination of Dittos and the Gibbles you have, you just tell him, I'm going to discard the egg. But let's say it was a good egg. You ended up, you have found a combo that can do let's say that's a 4 IV. And your Gibble, let's say, was the same Gibble here. Or we're going to use a different Gibble just to make it perfect. Well, you found a different Ditto and a different Gibble, and you were able to get the following IV spread. That was an optimal method. You now went from 2, let's say, or 3 IVs to a 4 IV. When you're at 4 IVs, I usually stop time machine method and wait. Like what I mean by wait is look for this wild card. Let's say I'm building a special sweeper. That means I don't, let's stick to Gibble. I'm building him as a physical sweeper. That means I want my wild card on special attack. So I'm going to be looking for, let's say, a female, male, wild card, female, male, something like this. The wild card is on special attack. And then I'll look through my Pokemon and my Dittos. Do I have one that is a male that carries these two, the defense and the speed, while do I have a female or a ditto that would carry the special defense, attack, and health? If I have that, boom, your next Pokemon is a 5 IV. Perfect and flawless. If nope, nope. Remember, you have to be keeping the Everstone on the Pokemon that has the nature. Once you're doing with Dittos, you have the egg moves. And if you're doing with non-Dittos, the female is locked down to the Pokemon you're breeding. So if you didn't have Dittos and you want to do this method with non-Dittos, you need to have bred a female Gibble. And then you have to work around with the female Gibble that you have until you breed a better female. Then you improve it until you get better combinations. So I highly advise, if you know somebody who has a Ditto, Friend Safari Ditto, go there, take a Pokemon with Trace, and synchronize. Synchronize out of battle gives you a 50% chance the next Pokemon you're going to encounter is the same nature. So if you're looking for an Adamant Ditto in a Friend Safari, go with a Synchronize who's fainted. Make sure he's fainted, because all he needs to be is the first Pokemon in your lead. And then this is the second Pokemon. Then your second Pokemon, who's going to be the first Pokemon to go into the battle, has Trace. And then he will trace the ability, if it's a hidden power or not. This is good if you're tracing ability, if you want to find, let's say you discover that you're going to be transferring the hidden ability with a certain IV spread, and you wanted the IV spread, but your problem was you didn't have a female or a male who had the hidden ability. So you're looking for a Pokemon with the hidden ability and a specific IV spread. So you go there, get the trace Pokemon, he's going to read the ability, you're going to check, is it the hidden ability? Yes, well, you're good. You take it to the IV guy. Does he have the perfect IVs? Did he say he's unbeatable in the stats that you need? If yes, that's your Pokemon. If no, you're going to have to go look for another one. Takes a while, this method. That's why I got all nature Dittos from the Friend Safari. All of them. Preparation for the time machine method is like 2-3 hours by itself. Some go to 4 and even 10 hours just to get all the Dittos that they need. But you can get a friend to help you. I had a friend help me. We split the work. He had a Ditto's Friend Safari. I had a Ditto Friend Safari. We were all hunting, and we ended up getting the Dittos that, like, I would ring him. It's like, hey bro, do you have a Ditto that's stats like this with this nature? Or if I already have the nature, I would be like, just I need these stats. Do you have them? He would be like, yes, I have this. Can you let me borrow it? Just so I can breed one egg. Or let's say, for example, I was doing my breeding method for a physical sweeper, but I ended up getting, instead of the wild card on special attack, I got the wild card on physical attack. Now I know that my next Pokemon with the same gender ratio will be missing only physical attack. I go call my friend. Hey, are you breeding some special sweeper Pokemon? Let's say, for example, Typhlosion. Because I got a Pokemon with wild card physical attack, but I'm breeding for wild card special attack. Instead of letting it go to waste, do you want me to breed you something? If yes, send me the Pokemon you want. This is my spread. Do you have anything that would fit this spread? Then you'll tell me yes or no. If no, then I'll have to discard the egg and keep moving. If yes, then I just helped my friend. And then he would probably end up helping me. He'd be like, oh, I got a Pokemon with wild card special attack. Can you give me your Gibble? I think I can breed it for you. It's a win-win situation when you're doing it with friends. That's the beauty of Pokemon. You always want to have friends in Pokemon. So, to recap all of this, because I know it's a lot of information. Step 1. 2 wild Pokemon caught. Why did I write step 2? Ah. Step 2. Check their stats at Battle Institute. Step 3. Breed the 2 test Pokemon. Step 4. Save. Your save has to be before an egg spawns. That is essential. And why I put this as a step by step, everybody forgets when to save. That's why they suck at the time machine method. So now you know when to save. Step 5. Get an egg. Step 6. Hatch egg. And go to Battle Institute. I'm going to write this as a step, but it's not a step. It's just for you to know. Do not save. Unlike here, when you're checking out the battles, you save before you go in just to make it faster. You do not save because we want to go back to step 4, when we were before the egg spawned. Then step 8, read the egg stats at level 50. With this method, you don't even need to care about what is the IVs because you're only reading stats. So if you got I don't know, is it a 22 or is it a 12? Is it a 6? You don't need to. Is it a 31? Is it a 0? You don't need to know. You're just comparing raw numbers that you saw in front of you. Step 9, restart. Step 10, if you like the egg was, let me call this part A. If you like this egg, you take out the test Pokemon. Insert best combination you owned for breeding. Ditto plus Pokemon being bred. This is essential. Wait for new egg. Hatch. Then congrats. Part B. What do you do in part B? Part B, you'll be like, I did not like that egg. If that happens, you're gonna wait for egg. You did not take your Pokemon. You're gonna wait for new egg directly, but this time you're gonna reject the egg. Tell the daycare man, no, you can keep the egg. I don't need this egg. You keep this egg. And then you save. Then you go back to step 5. Wait for a new egg. You hatch it, go to the Battle Institute and check its IVs. Check its stats. Always remember, mark down, use a pencil and paper, and this is all you need to know for the time machine method. This is essentially it. It's kind of long, could be tedious. The start is only really chaotic. But once you finish the first part, step 1 and through 3, you directly start at part 4. Just put the Pokemon, save the game, and start hatching. You don't need to check the stats. Now, this is why I said only the same ratio Pokemon. Let's say you're breeding Electivire. He is a 3-to-1 ratio. Electivire is a 3-to-1. You'll have 3 males for each 1 female. That doesn't mean that within 4 eggs you're going to get 3 males and 1 female. You can end up with 4 females. That could happen. Just this is his ratio. He has a higher chance of getting a male than a female. This gender ratio, I use Abra. Why Abra? He has the smallest hatch distance. That means I don't have to walk and wait forever. Then we have the 1-to-7 ratio. Pokemon like Aerodactyl is a 1-to-7 ratio. For these 1-to-7 ratios, I use Combi. Combi has a chance of being 7 males for each 1 female. Now, you have other Pokemon who are 3-to-1 ratio. These are kind of rare, but you can get them. I don't know many who are in it. I think Vulpix is in it, or Clefairy. Could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. But the test Pokemon for this, for the 3-to-1 ratio, I mean 1-to-3. Nah, this is supposed to be 7-to-1, not 1-to-7. Sorry. 1-to-3. That means 1 male for each 3 females. You want to use here Skitty. And if you're doing a 1-to-1, which is a 50%, you're going to use Magikarps, because these are the fastest to hatch, so you don't wait forever for your test result to come out. The faster the hatch, the faster you can get back to your breeding. Now, as you can see, I did not put the 100% male, 100% female, and genderless. Genderless are kind of rough because you have no idea who gave what. You have no male or female. Now, I developed a method for it, but it's kind of complicated. I'll put it here as an extra. But see, the problem with the genderless, instead of starting from 0, you have to start from somewhere. You need IVs somewhere, and you need a Ditto that complements those IV. So let's say we were breeding a Beldum, and he had 31, 31, 31, then X, X, X. I don't care about those. You want a Ditto that is X, 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 31, 31, 31. You want it like this. Because when you hatch the egg, you're going to do the same thing, but this time your test Pokemon is the Pokemon itself. You're going to save the game, take an egg, hatch it, go to the judge guy instead of the Battle Institute, and ask him, what stats do I have? If he said any of these 3 were given, that means you know which came from the male, which came from the Pokemon you're breeding. And if he said one of these were unbeatable, that means you know one of these, whatever he said, came from the Ditto. Now, if he said, for example, let's do an example, quick example. With these same Dittos, he said, you got X, 31, 31, 31, 31, X. One of them is a wild card. You know that the attack and defense came from the Beldum, special attack, special defense came from the Ditto. One of either the health or speed is the wild card. So what essentially you're going to do is you're going to look for a Beldum that you have that has attack, defense. he didn't transfer that special. He didn't transfer the special defense. He could have transferred uh, the speed. The Ditto did not give the speed, and you don't know if the Beldum had speed or not. So either he gave the speed or it was the wild card. And you're now looking for the Ditto, who would be, you know that the Beldum did not transfer the health. It could be a wild card, or it could have came from the Ditto. So you want it 31, X, X, 31, 31, X. Kind of complicated a bit. Kind of going to be a pain to get, but this is essentially your time machine method, breeding. That is the hardest way, maybe. I know it's too complicated, but this is the best way to do it if you don't have a 6IV Ditto. So a little recap on the two methods. Method 1, 6IV Ditto, you put them together, you breed. If you had two IVs, once you get 3, you take out the 2, put the 3. You're at 3, once you get 4, take out the 4, 3 and put the 4. Once you're at 4, take out the 4 and put in the 5. Once you're at 5, you're just waiting for that wild card to be where you want it to be. And then you're good. Time machine method. You're going to look for the gender ratio. And then you take your test Pokemon, which are listed right here. The 1-to-1, the 3-to-1, and the 1-to-3, and the 7-to-1. Combi, Skitty, Magikarp, Abra. Choose your test Pokemon according to this gender ratio. Put them in, and then you're going to do this whole procedure. You want to take a copy of it, you want to bookmark the video, you want to take a screenshot, all works, doesn't matter. But essentially, this is how you breed. That's method 1, that's method 2. You can always do the YOLO method, just put 2 random Pokemon, and you can do the tedious method, which is you have no Dittos, no access to friend safaris. Instead of a Ditto, you're going to use the time machine method, but with another Pokemon in the same egg group. This is a lot harder to do, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. That's why friend safari Dittos are highly in demand. And that concludes breeding in general. Now, if you're asking for the only males, only females, like Nidoking and Kangaskhan and Nidoqueen and stuff like that, it's the same like genderless. You lock it down on one Pokemon, either 100% male, either 100% female, or the genderless, and you complement his stats with a Ditto. Has to be a complement. So if that Nidoking, Beldum, or Nidoqueen, or whatever has a 31 somewhere, you do not want the Ditto to have the 31 at the same spot. Just because you want to make sure, who did it take it from? Did it come from the Beldum or did it come from the Ditto? You want to know how to identify it. Pencil and paper, trial and error, have friends help you. If you don't have friends, you can ask admins for help, or you can post on the Pokemon Chamber Facebook and just go and say, I'm looking for help with this, I need a Ditto with these stats, if anyone can help me. Or I have a wild card in this for breeding a 5 IV. Anyone wants to send me a Pokemon that he wants me to breed, I'll breed it for him. And then I'll give him the new 5 IV hatched, and he will trade me another 5 IV Pokemon that maybe I want. Win-win for everybody. Remember, everyone on the group is a friend. Admins are there as well as friends. This is essentially breeding. It is long, it is harsh, but without learning how to breed, or if you don't breed properly, you're at a big disadvantage. Like we said in tutorial number 1, IVs, EVs in nature, they're game changing. Now the last thing I want to mention is the ability. If you're breeding for a hidden ability as well along with it. You want your female to be the Pokemon that you're breeding, and the female must have the hidden ability because the female has an 80% chance. You want to risk it with the male, go ahead. It's only a 20% chance you're going to get the hidden ability transferred, while it's an 80% chance with the female. As long as you're breeding with a Ditto. If you're breeding with another Pokemon of the same egg group, that's something else. The male can never transfer the hidden ability. It's always the female. That's why we insist on the female when breeding to have the hidden ability. So I hope this was helpful. If there's anything that you need to know or elaborate on, let me know. Next episode would be how to build your moveset and put your EVs. Like we said, these EVs right here could be game changing, adding extra stats in certain places. How do you want to place them? Put them. Then you want to choose your moves. Why, for example, I chose Ironhead, although I mentioned it, but I'm going to go over it again. We went with Outrage, for example. Let's say we're going for a Sword Dance as well, and then an Earthquake. Then we're going to choose an item. Which ability? Essentially, this is what we're going for. We're going to be teaching you this in episode 3. Till then, I hope everyone's starting to breed, because after they have their breeding Pokemon ready, we want to go to the training, and there we're going to start fixing your teams. And hopefully we'll see one of you new guys as a gym leader or maybe part of the Elite Four in the new Pokemon Chamber event that's coming soon.